Chronicles of the Grim Reaper, from Afar, by Griz Calderon. The Grim Reaper had learned that not every pull meant someone was about to die. It had taken Grayson to teach him that. He was far from her when he felt it again, the familiar draw that had interrupted his duties many times since the night of her accident. In the beginning, he had followed it without question. He would find Grayson asleep, walking home from work, sitting alone somewhere with her thoughts. Once, he found her laughing so hard with a friend that she had tears in her eyes. Those visits had reassured him. She was living. That was what he had asked of her when she wanted to remain with him. He had sent her back to a life she no longer wanted, because he knew there was more waiting for her. He had been right. What he had not known was how difficult it would become to watch. He resisted the pull now. Grayson was not dying. He could sense that much. Whatever had called to him had nothing to do with the work that had carried him through centuries. Still, it persisted. He finally surrendered to it. When the world settled around him again, he stood beneath the awning of a building across from a small cafe. Grayson was inside. The Grim Reaper remained outside the window, unseen by the people passing around him. His long black robe fell still around his form. Beneath his hood, there was no face, only the darkness Grayson had somehow learned not to fear. One black hand rested against the wooden shaft of his curved scythe. He found her immediately. She sat alone at a small table near the window, with a book open in front of her. A cup rested beside it, forgotten as she read. She looked well. He always checked. There had been visits when he found the sadness returning. On those days, he stayed longer. Grayson never saw him, but occasionally she would stop what she was doing and look toward the place where he stood. He had wondered whether she still felt him. He hoped she did. He hoped she didn't. The contradiction had become familiar. The last time he allowed her to know he was there, they had spoken about what neither of them wanted to accept. Grayson loved him. He loved her. But he could not become a man simply because he had learned to love like one. There would be no ordinary life for them. He could not wake beside her in the morning or come home to her at the end of a day. He would never grow older while she changed beside him. His existence belonged elsewhere. Grayson's did not. She had asked him once what they were supposed to do with a love they could not live. He had not known how to answer. Eventually, he told her what he did know. She had to live. Grayson had looked at him for a long time after that. And what happens when I fall in love with someone else? The question had hurt in a way he had not understood. He had seen grief in countless forms. He knew what happened to the living when someone they loved was taken from them. No one was being taken from him. Grayson was simply doing what he had once told her to do. Go fall in love. He had not been prepared for those words to lead her away from him. He told her he could not watch it happen. Grayson had cried quietly. He had wanted to stay with her. Instead, he left. She did not know that he returned days later, or that he returned again after that. He simply stopped allowing her to feel him. Now he stood outside the cafe wondering why he had been called to her again. Grayson turned a page. Nothing happened. The Grim Reaper waited. A few minutes later, the door opened and a man entered. There was nothing remarkable about his arrival. He brushed rain from his coat and joined the short line at the counter. He glanced around while he waited. His eyes passed over Grayson, then returned to her. The Grim Reaper noticed. Grayson did not. She kept reading. The man collected his drink and chose a table nearby. There were other empty seats, including several farther from her. The Grim Reaper tightened his grip on the scythe. He knew nothing about the man. For the first time since arriving, he wished the pull had brought him because someone was going to die. The thought disturbed him. He released his grip. The man had done nothing except choose a chair. Grayson eventually closed her book and reached for her cup. She took a drink, made a face at the cold coffee, and glanced toward the counter. The man smiled at her. Grayson gave him the polite smile she offered strangers. Then she looked away. The Grim Reaper almost left. Almost. Grayson gathered her things and stood. Her scarf slipped from the back of the chair and fell to the floor. The man reached it before she did. He handed it to her. She thanked him. He said something. Grayson laughed. The Grim Reaper became very still. He knew that laugh. He had heard it when she was young, before disappointment had taught her to guard herself. He had heard pieces of it returning after the accident. The man said something else. Grayson stayed. The conversation lasted less than a minute before she left the cafe. The man watched her through the window. So did the Grim Reaper. That was all. He did not understand why he had been brought there for something so small. Then Grayson stopped beneath the awning. She looked back through the glass. The man was still watching. Grayson smiled. The pull disappeared. The Grim Reaper understood. He looked toward the sky, though there was nothing there to answer him. Of all the endings he had been summoned to witness, somehow he had been brought to this beginning. He followed Grayson home. She went about her evening as though nothing important had happened. She changed clothes, fed herself, and left her book on the table. Her phone rang. Grayson looked at the screen before answering. The Grim Reaper watched her expression change. The man from the cafe had found a reason to call. Grayson walked to the window while they spoke. She laughed again. The Grim Reaper left. He did not return the following day. He stayed away for nearly a month. When the pull finally came again, he found Grayson walking beside the same man. Their hands were not touching. There was barely an inch between them. The Grim Reaper followed at a distance. He saw the man listen when Grayson spoke. There was no impatience when she stopped to point at something in a shop window. When she changed direction without warning, he changed direction with her. Grayson looked comfortable beside him. That mattered. The Grim Reaper remembered too much about the woman she had been before the accident. He remembered how often she had changed herself to keep someone else happy. How easily she had mistaken being needed for being loved. She wasn't doing that now. The man adjusted his pace to hers. The Grim Reaper noticed. He began checking on them occasionally. He told himself he was checking on Grayson. There was a difference, though he did not like admitting it. He watched the man. He watched how Grayson behaved around him. He watched for the old habits to return, the way she once put another person's happiness ahead of her own, until there was little room left for hers. Months passed. The Grim Reaper saw her dance in her kitchen while dinner burned on the stove. The man rushed to open a window while Grayson laughed and waved a towel beneath the smoke alarm. He saw them disagree once. Grayson crossed her arms and turned away. The man started to leave the room, then stopped. He returned and sat across from her. The Grim Reaper stayed until they began talking again. Another evening, he found Grayson crying. He appeared immediately, standing in the corner of her bedroom before he knew why she was upset. His instinct was to let her feel him. Before he could, the man entered. He sat beside Grayson. He didn't try to stop her tears. He stayed. The Grim Reaper stepped back into the shadows. Perhaps that was what Grayson needed most. Someone who could stay. The thought remained with him long after he left. Years passed, measured differently for him than they were for her. Grayson's face changed slightly. The life around her changed more. Then the pull came again. This time it led him outdoors. People were gathered beneath an open sky. Flowers lined the rows of chairs, and voices drifted through the warm afternoon. The Grim Reaper knew why he was there before he saw her. Grayson appeared at the far end of the aisle. She wore white. For a moment, the Grim Reaper could see only the woman who had sat beside him above a mountain while rescuers worked desperately below. She had wanted him to take her then. She had been tired of living. Now she walked toward a man waiting to spend his life with her. The Grim Reaper stood beneath the trees where no one could see him. He had wondered many times what it would feel like when this day came. Now that it had, he still could not name it. There was pain. He understood that much. But there was something else beside it. Grayson reached the man. He took her hands. She smiled at him. The Grim Reaper remembered the promise he had made to her when she lay between life and death. There is still love waiting for you. He had once wondered whether he was that love. Perhaps he had been part of it. Perhaps love was never meant to belong to one person or one moment. He had loved Grayson enough to send her back when she begged him not to. Now he had to love her enough to let her stay. When the ceremony ended, Grayson turned toward the people gathered around her. Her eyes moved across the crowd. Then she looked toward the trees, toward him. The Grim Reaper did not move. Grayson's smile softened. For one impossible moment, he wondered if she knew. Then her husband touched her hand, and Grayson turned back to him. The Grim Reaper watched them walk away together. He could not be the man beside her. He had known that for a long time. Knowing it had never made it easier. But the woman walking away from him was not the woman he had first met. She laughed easily now. She made plans. She wanted tomorrow. That was enough. The Grim Reaper turned from the celebration. He would keep his distance. He would not interfere with the life Grayson had chosen, or ask her to divide her heart between what she could have and what could never be. But he knew himself well enough now to understand one thing. He would return. Not so she could feel him. Not so she would remember what they had been. He would come only to see that she was still living. And when the day finally came, that the pull meant what it had always meant before Grayson, he would be there. Until then, her life belonged to her. The Grim Reaper disappeared beneath the trees while Grayson's laughter carried across the gathering. The end